Welcome. Today we're diving into a single, quite somber source, a CBS News article about a truly tragic school shooting that happened in Graz, Austria.
Yeah, specific one.
Our focus is really to unpack what this specific article reported, the core facts, the immediate response, and importantly, the context it provides on Austrian gun laws.
Exactly. It's about understanding the event as reported in this source. The article itself seems to quickly try and frame it.
It does. Setting the scene, it paints this picture of a quiet Tuesday morning in Graz, which then just completely shattered.
A day that officials later described as a national tragedy, it clearly sent shockwaves.
So let's start with the event itself. How does the article lay out the basic facts? What happened, when, where?
Okay, so the report states it was Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. Time-wise, late morning in Graz, around 10 a.m. local, that's 4 a.m. Eastern.
And the location.
The Björgheide Schützengasse High School in Graz, Austria.
And how did authorities first learn about it, according to the source?
It says police got a call, someone reporting shots heard inside the school. That was the trigger.
Right. And then the immediate aftermath. This is the really tough part, the casualties.
Yeah, the article reports just devastating numbers, at least 9 people killed.
9.
And it specifies the victims included students and at least one adult, plus several others were being treated for serious injuries.
Just awful. And the person responsible, the perpetrator.
The article notes the perpetrator was also deceased at the scene,
Okay.
but it makes a point of saying the cause of death wasn't immediately clear when the report came out.
So a very grim picture painted there. Given that situation unfolding, how did the authorities react? What does the source say about the response?
Well, it says police deployed to the school in force, and pretty quickly after that initial call came in.
In force meaning?
It actually mentioned special forces units were part of that deployment.
Okay. Serious response. And securing the school.
Yes, a key part was evacuating the building. Everyone inside was apparently taken to a safe meeting point, away from the danger.
Right. And by the time this article was published, what was the official status? Did the police say anything?
Yeah, the police had stated the situation was under control.
Okay.
They also communicated that they didn't believe there was any, ongoing threat to the public.
So contained to that incident?
And they believe the attacker had acted alone. That seems to be the assessment reported in the source at that time.
Understood. The human toll, though, really come through in the official reactions that the article includes.
Absolutely. It quotes the mayor of Graz, Elkakar, who just plainly called it a terrible tragedy.
And the reaction went higher, didn't it?
It did. Austrian Chancellor Christian Stocker described it as a national tragedy. He emphasized how deeply it shook the country, expressing, pain and grief.
That really underscores the impact.
And there's also a reaction mentioned from the European level. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president.
What did she say?
She posted on X, saying something like, "It's hard to bear when schools become places of death and violence." And she pointed out that schools should be symbols of, youth and hope.
Powerful words reflecting that shock. The article also gives us just a tiny bit of background on Graz itself.
Yeah, just basic context. Austria's second biggest city, southeast of the country, population around 300,000, just helps you place it on the map, essentially.
Right. Now, as you flagged earlier, the article then pivots quite directly into a key piece of context, Austria's gun laws.
Yes, and it makes a very specific point right at the start of that section.
Yes.
That firearms violence is rare in Austria. And it explicitly links this to the fact that gun ownership there is, quote, tightly regulated.
Okay, so that framing is important. The article seems to be setting up a contrast. What specifics does it give about these regulations? What's not allowed?
It lists several categories of prohibited firearms. All automatic weapons, for starters. Then it gets specific. Semi-automatic rifles holding more than 10 rounds. Semi-auto handguns holding over 20 rounds. Also, most pump-action shotguns and short-barrel shotguns. All prohibited, according to the source.
That's quite a list. So those are banned. What kinds of firearms can people own? And what hoops do they have to jump through?
Well, the article mentions that for some other types, like certain multiple-round long guns and handguns, but with lower capacities than the banned ones, you need special permits.
And getting those permits involves?
It says multiple layers of verification and checks. Suggests it's not a simple process.
Okay. But are there any firearms people can own without needing one of those special permits?
Yes, according to the article. This applies to rifles and shotguns that you have to manually reload after every single shot, like bolt-action rifles, that sort of thing.
And even for those, are there rules?
Owners have to be over 18, And, crucially, they must register the gun on a national database within 6 weeks of acquiring it.
Registration even for the non-permit guns. What about carrying or transporting them?
For public transport, the article states you need a specific European Union-issued weapons pass.
Ah, an EU pass.
Yeah, and it emphasizes that this pass only covers firearms that are actually legal under Austria's own national laws anyway.
Okay, that's a pretty detailed breakdown provided in the article. So we've walked through the tragic event, the response, the reactions, and this deep dive into the gun laws, all from this single source. What's the takeaway when you put all those pieces from the article together? What does it mean for you, the listener?
Well, I think the way the article structures itself is key. Going from the horror of the shooting straight into the detailed regulations. It really seems designed to highlight that contrast.
The contrast being the extreme violence versus the strict legal environment.
Exactly. It's presenting this terrible event as an anomaly, an outlier, happening in a place where, as the article states, gun violence is rare and guns are tightly controlled.
So the regulations themselves become part of the story, context for the shock.
Precisely. Understanding those rules, as laid out in the article, and hearing that violence like this is uncommon there, it helps explain maybe the depth of the official reactions, calling it a national tragedy. The article itself sort of connects those dots by how it presents the information.
Right. So this deep dive, based purely on this one CBS News report, has given us a picture of the Graz shooting, the immediate official actions, the profound grief expressed, and, quite significantly, the specific framework of Austria's gun laws as described by the source.
We've seen how the article presents the incident itself, and then uses that regulatory context to frame it, suggesting this kind of event is not the norm there.
So, a final thought for you to consider, based only on what this source material has offered us. Reflect on the relationship the article seems to draw between those detailed regulations it describes and the stated rarity of gun violence in Austria. And maybe think about what the sheer level of shock and grief, as quoted from officials in the article, suggests about the impact when such violence does occur within that specific, tightly regulated context.